my shiny new Continental tyre. It's called a Continental Contact Urban. This is the Continental Compact 16. This week we're doing another video about tyres. Up until now, Schwalbe pretty much had the Brompton inner tube and tyre market all to themselves, apart from a brief period of time when Brompton used Kenda inner tubes. Obviously, with social isolation, we can't film it in the bus stop. Bromptons come as standard with a marathon racer. You can have your Brompton upgraded to a marathon. In the winter, my favourite tyres are the Marathon Pluses that are really unflattable, although they're not recommended by Brompton. In the summer, I like to change to Kojaks because they have a lower rolling resistance. Alternatively, if you want a pretty tan wall tyre, you can have the Schwalbe one. Schwalbe also make my favourite inner tube, the AV4. The standard Brompton inner tube is also made by a subsidiary of Schwalbe, Impact. Now entering into the market is the roadie's favourite, Continental. They've come out with a tyre and tube specifically aimed at the Brompton market. I'm going to fit my Brompton with these tyres using the Continental inner tubes. The Continental tyres are aimed at the commuter market, so I'm going to commute on them, and I'll do a long-term review and update you how I'm getting along. Whilst we're out for our one exercise a day, we managed to do our essential shopping. I even managed to get eggs and milk. And almost home, we even found a bus shelter replacement in the middle of a wood. So we thought we'd take the opportunity and replace one of the inner tubes and tyre. We just noticed in this bus shelter there's a little stay safe rainbow stone. Please everyone stay safe. My shiny new Continental tyre. It's called a Contact Urban. They're also compatible with electric bikes up to 25 kilometres an hour. And on Continental's safety rating, it's rated 6 out of 7 for puncture resistance. The tyre is directional. Unlike the last video, I'm actually going to try and remember to put it on the right way round. The tyre has a rotational arrow on it here. It's a standard Brompton size, 35/349. It even has the word Continental and a logo written in the tyre. The tread makes it look like quite a pretty tyre. I also think it's going to have low rolling resistance because there's not very much tread. On the edge of the tyre, it also tells you that it should only be mounted on hooked rims and that the maximum load per tyre is 71 kilos. The maximum pressure is 116 psi or 8 bar. To complete my Continental tyre setup, I'm going to use a Continental inner tube. This is the Continental Compact 16. It's also designed for standard Brompton tyres, 35/349. The valve is 34mm, so shorter than an AV4, so it might be easier to get a pump onto it. I don't want to break my eggs whilst I'm changing my tyre, so I'm going to take my bag off and put it in the bus shelter. Because I want it to look professional, I'm going to put the writing by the valve hole. So I'm going to find the valve hole and make sure I line it up. I'm then going to pop one side of the tyre onto the rim, making sure I've got the middle of the writing in the middle of the valve hole. Next, we're going to put the valve into the valve hole. We're going to make sure it's straight, so at 90 degrees to the rim. We're then going to pop the rest of the inner tube into the tyre. we've persuaded the inner tube into the tyre, we're going to start putting the tyre onto the wheel. I think I can confirm that AV4s are still my favourite inner tubes. That was definitely harder to fit. So we'll just squeeze the tyre to pop it between the brake calipers. It is quite easy to get the pump onto the shorter valve. That's quite nice. I don't think I'm going to do them up to 116 psi with this little pump. I might do them up harder when I get home with the track pump. Put my pump back on my bicycle and my valve cap onto my valve to keep the dust and dirt out. Now I'm going to ride off into the sunset and see what my new tyre's like. Now I'm home, I'm also going to put a Continental tyre and tube on my rear wheel. Because it might be a little messy, I'm going to put some mechanics gloves on. Because I'm changing the rear wheel, I've taken the opportunity to put the bicycle in a stand. I just find it a bit easier. The alternative, of course, is just to turn it upside down. I'm going to install the Continental Urban tyre and inner tube onto my rear wheel. To be honest, I found the inner tube a little bit tricky to fit into the tyre of my front wheel. It just felt a little bit like it was too much inner tube, like it was too thick in comparison to an AV4 that I use predominantly. So, let's see how it goes on the second round. I'm just going to put the inner tube out of the way and then get ready to put the tyre onto my wheel. Obviously, I need to install my tyre onto my rear wheel going the right direction. So the wheel is going to go this way and rotate in a forward direction. So I then need to make sure that I have my wheel the correct way round. So the rotation is that way. So this would be the right way round. The next thing I want to do is see what writing I had lined up with my valve on my front tyre. So I had Contact Urban on this side. So I want to make sure I have the same writing at the same point on my rear wheel. First, I'm going to pop the tyre over the wheel. Then I'm going to get my inner tube and put a little bit of air in it. Now I'm going to put a little bit of air into the inner tube. First of all, I'm going to put the valve into the hole and make sure it's straight down. Next, I'm going to put the inner tube into the tyre, making sure there's no creases or kinks. This is where I struggled yesterday, because the inner tube feels like it's just the right size for the wheel, so it doesn't really want to stay on the wheel. With the AV4, some people say they're too big, but I find it a lot easier to fit it round the wheel. Now, starting from the valve side, I'm going to try and put the second side of the tyre onto the rim. When it starts to become a little bit tricky at the far side from the valve, you can squish the tyre into the well on the wheel to give you a little bit more space to get the tyre over the rim. Because I struggled to get the tyre on with the gloves on, they kept getting stuck, I'm going to take my gloves off and put the second side of my tyre on. So, starting from the valve side, I'm going to put the second side of the tyre onto the rim. I'd say this is harder than a Marathon Plus with an AV4 inside because there's less space on the inside of the tyre because the inner tube is thicker. Now I'm going to put the wheel back on the bicycle. I'm going to put my glove back on so I don't get a greasy hand, even though the cleaning fairies have been and cleaned my bicycle. Now I've got a pair of Continental tyres on my bicycle, I'm going to pump them up and take them for a test ride. I'm going to make sure I put the valve cap on because it helps to keep the dust and dirt out of the valve. If you like this video, please give us a big thumbs up. If you want to see more of our videos, please subscribe. Have we missed anything, or is there anything you'd particularly like to see? Please comment in the comment section below. Up until now, Schwalbe had the Brompton. I can't throw it at you, it might hit your camera. I think it's quite a pretty tyre for tread. I don't want to break my eggs whilst I'm changing my tyre, so I'm going to take them off and pop them on the side. It's too small!